Okay, in last session we discussed about creating master slave configuration setup, right? So I hope you practiced. I shared the document as well. So now let me show one more thing here. See, if I go to my master, manage Jenkins, manage nodes and clouds. Here it is saying means my master is unable to connect to my node 1 and node 2. Fine. Now I'm going to my dashboard. I want to create a job for something like my fourth job is in last session we created this, right? So one here, this is an existing job, or else you can create a new job. This is a new job. I haven't run it even single time. Okay, not build it is showing. Now I want to run this job always on node 1. What should I do? This job has to be executed only on node 1 always. Then
here we have to check here, restrict where this project can be run.
This option is there, right? Restrict where this project can be run. How to restrict it? Has to run on only on node 1, because while creating the node, let me open it in a new tab. Okay, while creating that node 1, right? We have sorry. Okay, while creating node 1, we have given a label for that. What I did? Let me go back one. Sorry. Here. Here I have given a slave 1 as a label, right? So in my job, I have to give that slave. If I type, it will show. Yes, if I type, it will show here. So there is one space here. Restrict. Remove that. Okay. Now I'll select this. Okay, there is a space. Just remove that and click the other side. So it is going to show. Now, how many times I restrict? How many times I execute this job? This job will execute only on node 1. At the same time, node 1 will execute only this job, or will it allow other jobs also?
It will allow others because it is job level restriction.
Yeah, this is job level restriction. So we are saying this job has to be executed only on node 1. So it will execute there. But node 1 can allow some other jobs also which don't have any label also. If a master is assigning a job has to be executed node 1, yes, it will get executed on node 1. Okay, good. Now, I think I already covered this, right? So why we have to use this master slave configuration? One is for the load balancing and all I said, right? Yes, good. Next, one more thing is when we have master slave configuration, why should I restrict a particular job to run only on this node 1? For example, just think this is Node.js project. This is Node.js project. The Node.js software is available only on node 1. So if I don't restrict this job to execute only on node 1, then what will happen? Master may execute on master itself, or else assign it to execute on node 1 or node 2. But whenever it executes on node 1, it will be success. Other times it will be failure because Node.js software is unable on, Node.js software is not available on master and node 2. Always, so we have to run this on only on node 1. So this is one use case. Understood, guys? Why to restrict the jobs to run only on one particular node? Okay. Okay. Yes or no, guys? Hello.
Yes, sir.
Okay. And one more thing is, why should I use node level restriction? Node level restriction. Why I have to allow particular type of jobs? All jobs means the node should allow only the jobs which has the label expression matching. Why? Because, for example, I have node 1 where Node.js is there. Okay, Node.js is there. Now on master, I have Java. Here also I have Java. Here I don't have Java. Here I don't have Java on node 1. Now tell me, if there is a job, if it is a Java related projects, if I am not putting any restriction here, so what my master will do, there is a probability the job can execute on master or node 1 or node 2. Yes or no? There is a probability that this job may execute on master or node 1 or node 2. Whenever it tries to execute on node 1, it will fail because Java is not there. For example, I'm saying, okay, by default to support Jenkins itself, we need to have Java, but I'm saying like this. Now, next I want to, this is Node.js project. I'm restricting this to execute only on this node. Okay, no problem. But there are other Java jobs. So when they tries to execute here, this will fail. So I want to put a node level restriction also. Like wherever this label is matching, only those jobs I'll allow. These jobs I'll not allow. So my master itself will not try to put a job here. If try to put a job, I have a restriction. So it will choose either master or node 2 to run that job, to execute that job. So this is how we use for a few use cases to use job level restriction and node level restrictions. For example, yeah, most of the time for software related things only we do like that. Okay. Next, is that clear, guys? Okay. If you don't answer, as usual, let me skip. Go with something. So this is my master. This is my node 1. Is that visible, guys?
Yes, sir.
Okay, node 2. Okay, master node 1, node 2. So now, in general, yesterday someone asked this question, so I thought to cover this now. I forgot who asked this. I think Tejeshwar only. Okay. So now my master is there. I'll create a job. I have my development environment Linux here, QA here, pre-prod Linux here, and production Linux here. Right? So you can have this scenario. Right? You have separate worker nodes, you have production and other environments, Linux servers. So one Linux, dev Linux, QA Linux, pre-prod Linux, production Linux. So we'll have like this. Or else I can choose like this. I can install master on production. This is my QA environment. This is my pre-production environment. I can have dev environment. It's up to you based on your organization. Most of the time we choose separate instances, right? But in case if it is a small scale organization, so where you will install Jenkins master is on production. Wherever you have production Linux is there, right? There itself you install master, Jenkins master, make sure master is run, right? Master is available always. So you can choose worker nodes as like dev or QA or pre-prod environments, or else separate 3 instances you can take for Jenkins itself. Based on your company, you can decide that. If it is a small scale company, they cannot use many instances. You can do like this. You can share the same instances, or else you can take separate instances for Jenkins master slave itself. Okay. So you no need to have a Tomcat on the same worker node. It can be on different worker node. Okay. There is no mandatory rule. It is up to you. Okay, guys. Is it clear? Understood?
Yes, sir.
Okay.
Yes, sir.
Okay, fine. Next. Let me open my Jenkins, then I'll remember. Okay, fine. So these options, let me go to configure. I think you have not explained in last class. Let me cross check if I have not installed it. So I explained this, how to do this. This one. Keep this agent. From here, I haven't explained. Till here, launch method, launch agents by SSH, the host key, IP address, private IP, if master and worker nodes on same network. If they are in different networks, we can use public IP like that we discussed, right? Next, there is one option called as keep this agent online as much as possible. You have master slave configuration, right? You have master slave configuration. So now, okay, okay, I have master slave worker node. I don't want this worker node to be available to the master always 24/7. I don't want. Unnecessarily, I have it, right? Why? Because one master, for example, let's take, I have one master and 2 worker nodes. Let me tell you this. I have third worker node. I want this node 1, slave 1 and slave 2 to attach to my master always 24/7. My master need these 2. But this I don't want 24/7. If you want it always, you can keep this agent online as much as possible. So you can attach this third node and make it available all the time. If you don't want this, you can give this. Bring this agent online according to a schedule. Means if you give some schedule, when it has to start, when it has to complete, right? So if you give like 5 o'clock, like so for example, like 9 p.m. and 9 a.m. Right? Start time as 9 p.m. End time as 9 a.m. I have some cron jobs which has to be executed in the midnight. Midnight, there are some backup jobs or something I'll do in the midnight. So I need to have this instance available only in during the night time. So what you can do, you can give this, you can select this option. So this is also interview question, right? On real time also it will help you. Bring this agent online according to a schedule. Means whatever the node you are doing this option, right? For example, if I'm doing for node 3, this node will come online as per this time, whatever you have given, and it will go down as per this option, whatever you are giving. And now keep online while builds are running. Means, for example, I gave 9 p.m. as a start time. So this will come online and will be attached to my master 9 o'clock. So from my 9 p.m. onwards, my master will be able to assign the jobs here. At 9 a.m. it will go down. Means my master to the slave connection will go off. My master cannot assign any other jobs. If I select this option, what will happen is at 9 a.m. So today night it connected with the master. Tomorrow 9 a.m. Today 9 p.m. it connected with my master. Right? Tomorrow 9 a.m. it is going to disconnect. Right? At that time, if there are any running jobs, means one job has triggered, but not completely executed. It is in the mid 50% has executed. So what it will do is those jobs will keep running. Means it will wait until means it will keep the connection will be still there. Means there is a job running 50% 9 a.m. today. Tomorrow 9 a.m. it has to get disconnected with the master, but there is one running job. So it will wait until that running job completes. Once that job completes, then it will get disconnected. If you don't use this option, what will happen is if there is your job running 50%, it has executed, right? It will not wait until it gets 50%, the other 50% get completed. In the mid itself, it will terminate and get disconnected, which is not a good approach. So we can keep this option based on our requirement. Understood, guys? So for this node, if you want to set any environmental variables, you can add it from here, only particular to this node. If any tools are there only for this particular node, if you want to add any tools, you can add them. Okay. So you can install the tools, which means on the worker nodes, you have installed any external tools. For those tools, you have to set the path. We can set it here. Disable deferred wipeout on this node. What is this? I forgot. Let's just click on this. One more thing I forgot to tell you in last class itself. In Jenkins, if you need any help of this option, for example, you don't know what is this label, or else what is this number of executor, you don't know, right? Wherever the question mark is there, right next to this, just click on this question mark. It will give you the maximum number of concurrent builds that Jenkins may perform on this node, right? It will give some examples also. It will explain you, right? If you don't know anything here, you can just click on this icon. It will help you. So this one, right? You just click on this. Okay. During the workspace cleanup, disable improve deferred wipeout method. By default, deferred wipeout is used if desired. Say, what is this? I think this is like workspace cleanup. When we are going to clean the workspace, at that time we can use this. Okay, but it's okay. Ignore it. Not a problem. Okay, understood, guys?
Yes, sir.
Okay, yes. These options. Okay. Okay, something we changed. Anything, it got disconnected. Anything we changed? Schedule time idea here. Okay. Keep this agent as much as possible. Okay, relaunch agent. So just going to relaunch. Okay, leave it. Okay, fine. Next, let me go to manage Jenkins. So this option we discussed, right? This option we discussed. This one, manage nodes and cloud. Okay. Next, let me discuss this credentials also we discussed. Let me discuss something about this security option. Configure security, global security. This is related to Jenkins security. So far in the job, we added credentials, right? Username and password, right? While connecting to worker nodes, username with a private key we added. Those are from Jenkins. If your Jenkins has to connect with external tools, those credentials will be used. But I want to log into a Jenkins in real time. For example, we are all one team. I'm a DevOps admin, right? Just think like few of you are already there and few people as newly joined. How can I give you access to you all? Can I share my this username and password, admin username and password? What am I using, right? Can I use that? Can I give that to you people?
No, sir.
No way. You should do. in few cases, we will share the credentials like for dev environment, something like that. But in real time, few cases means that is not recommended, but few cases like as a friendly nature or like to support each other, we say, but that is not a good practice at all. Every person should have individual username and passwords, right? Now, if I want to log into Jenkins, I'm using my own credentials, admin credentials, but Kavya is asking, sir, I also want to Jenkins. I'm also your teammate. I want some other project guys asked me to implement to create a job for them. So I need access. Can I give my credentials to her? No, we should not give at all. Then how? Then how is we can create different levels of securities, right? We'll see that. And one of my developer is asking, okay, Kavya is a DevOps team only. I can give her some access, admin related access. But one of the developers came and they asked, hey, dude, give me access for Jenkins. I need to do few things here. I'll ask him what type of things. So he explained me. For that case, okay, I need to give him access. He need it. But I don't want to give him access, full admin access. Only read access I want to give him, how to give, right? One more person is saying, yeah, dude, I'm also part of, I know about Jenkins, this and all. I know about DevOps. I want little admin access. He's asking, okay, I convince my manager, everyone is agreed to give him admin access, but I don't want to give admin access for entire Jenkins. For example, there are 5 projects, each project 4 jobs, 4 environments. I want to give him access only for those 4 jobs or else only 1 job. How to do that? And all we can do here. Okay, we'll see that. Now see this first option. Let me take in another browser. Let me take it in, I'll open in new browser. I'll show each option. Okay, see this, I'm opening my Jenkins here also. This is Edge browser, Microsoft. Keep me signed in option is there, right? You see this. Now, if I give my username and password here and click on this, keep me signed in, same like Gmail, it will remember username and password, right? Okay. Now what I'm doing is I'm going here in the settings in the Chrome, right? You observe here, I'll keep this. Wherever you see this I logged in as admin, remember this. Okay, the other tab, I have only 1 page. You see this. I'm going to disable remember me. I'm applying the change. Disable, I'm applying this change. Now I'll go to this page, I'll refresh it. I'll refresh it. Are you seeing this option? No. If you don't, whoever are using Jenkins in your company, for them, if you don't want to give this option, you can enable this. I want to allow them. Okay, remove this and do this. So if they refresh it, so next users will be able to this. Keep me signed in option. Okay, fine. Next, this is that. This is authentication. Okay, this is related to authentication. Next. Okay, who can access my Jenkins? For example, I gave you a URL. Okay, I'll put it on a WebEx, this Zoom chat. So with this IP address and port number, everyone will be able to hit that. So everyone can access my Jenkins. This is a public IP address, right? Everyone can access, of course, right? So now I want to create one more user. Like this, who can access my Jenkins? Who all can access my Jenkins, right? See, I can create users. I can create one more user called as Kavya username, password, and I can give her access. But what will happen is where her credentials will be stored is a matter now. Where her credentials will be stored, right? So now only I'm the person, admin. I'm only the person who can access this Jenkins, who has username and password. Even if I give this URL also, you can access, but you cannot log in. You cannot sign in here because you don't know my username and password. But in case if you want to log in, for you, I'll create a user. Like Kavya, some password I'll set it. But where those credentials will be stored, right? Jenkins own user database. So whatever the Jenkins we have installed, that Jenkins will have its own database where under var/lib/Jenkins, it will create one folder, user, password, something it will do there. There it will store your credentials. So next time if you try to log in to my Jenkins, right, those credentials will be stored there. So now if I want to add 10 users to my Jenkins, do I need to create 10 users and passwords for them? Yes or no? Yes or no, guys?
Yes, sir.
Yes.
So by default, where those username and passwords will be stored on the Jenkins own database, Jenkins own user database. Now this admin username and password also stored on this user Jenkins own database. Next, allow users to sign up. See, for example, just think like I have added a user called as Kavya. how I'll add, I'll show you later. But just think, I have added a user called as Kavya. Now Kavya is a person who is accessing like this, right? Kavya can sign in. I'll tell Kavya, hey Kavya, I created a username and password for you. So this is username, password, login like this. She'll log in with that. Cool. But what I'm saying is, I no need to create a users. I no need to create a user. For example, Pawan wants to access. Now, I don't want to create username and password for Pawan. What I'm giving is allow users to access. Allow users to sign up means they can sign up. They themselves can sign up. See here, whoever knows this URL, right? If they hit this, see, create an account. This option is coming. So now Pawan can create his own account, username, full this username, full name, email, password. He can, using that, he can create his own account. But see, for Kavya, as I am creating Kavya user, I can set some permissions for her, read only permissions for entire Jenkins, or else admin permissions only for one job in my Jenkins. Like that I can set. But Pawan is signing up himself. What type of access he should get, right? We can also set that. So I'll show you how to set. Let's read this. With sign up enabled, anyone in your network can become an authenticated user. It is recommended in this case to minimize the permissions granted by authenticated user. Means if someone like this is creating their own user account, means their own username and password in my Jenkins, it is saying that you have to give minimum permissions. Don't give maximum permissions, right? Okay, we'll do that. How to do that? We'll see that. Now I don't want to give that. Sign up in general will not give like this. So we are not giving this. Okay. Next, delegate to some servlet container. Means I don't want to maintain this username and password like some REST API application, something they will use this and all. You can do that. Okay. But this also will not do. We don't want that. Leave it. Next. Where is this? Next, LDAP. This is important. See, this LDAP is nothing but, for example, what is meant by LDAP server? Let me give some idea about this. You log in, you'll go to, there are so many working people, right? Okay, you are already working in a few companies who are trying to switch the job they are learning DevOps, or else like in their company itself they want to change it, or else few person are learning for knowledge, few person for job purpose they are learning, right? So those, if you are working company in a company, you might be very clear about this. There will be one. By the time, let me turn off this slaves. I don't want. Let it keep. We'll see. Okay, let me explain this. In your company, you will have so many websites. Like you want to submit your working hours daily, how many hours you worked. For that, there will be one site. You want to submit for leaves. There will be one URL, one website, right? Like that, in your company itself, there will be so many websites. For all of the websites, have you observed or not? You will use same username and password. You no need to register also. For example, when you join your company, they'll ask you to create an account. They'll give you one username. You will create one password, set up password for this, that. Every 90 days, you'll change it. But whenever you change the new password also, right? Whatever the office related sites you visit, you no need to log in with them. Once, if I open a browser, this is one website. I logged in using my username and password. I logged in here. I opened this one more website in the second browser. It will not even ask the password, right? And for all the sites, whatever I log in, whenever it asks for username, if I give the same username and password, it will accept. How? Because one thing, when you log into one website, in the next page, if you try to hit some other URL, right, some other website URL, it will not ask for the password. By default, whatever username and password you entered for the first website, it will take it here. That is because of SSO, right? Single sign-on will be there. So for your office website, on your browser, if you log into one website, for the other website, wherever the username and password are common, right, it will not ask, it will take the same thing. But whatever the website, how the common website are maintained, common username and passwords are maintained is, there will be some server called as LDAP. There will be something called as LDAP server where the configurations are made, like the default, whatever your company username and passwords you have, right? For them, those are linked with the LDAP. So all your websites, whatever you have, they'll use the same credentials stored in your database. Somewhere they'll be stored in our. This is a big topic. Even I don't have a very clear idea how to implement this LDAP. But just think, there is one username and password stored in one database. So there will be one LDAP which will connect to that database and check the username and password. So if all your Office websites are linked to that LDAP. Now, even if your Jenkins, if you link that Jenkins to that LDAP, right? So that will check the same database. So whatever in your Office, someone can log into that Office Hour Submission website. Now, if the same person hit this, if they know that URL, this Jenkins URL hit this, even they'll be able to log into your Jenkins. You no need to give them, you no need to create them separate username and password for Jenkins, because their credentials, everything are stored in LDAP. So if you are linking your Jenkins with this LDAP, that's it. Their LDAP credentials, their own credentials, your Office website, your Office credentials will work for them also. Okay, they can log into Jenkins, but what type of access they can get, right? We have to restrict here. Okay, we'll see this. This is authentication part. Authorization part we'll see later. Authentication, you know, right? Login part. Authorization means once you log in, what type of access you have to get. So this LDAP settings you have to do, but you no need to worry about this. In real time, we may use this either or this, right? LDAP also we can use. But here that LDAP server will have few details. We have to give this like server, IP address or host name, port in this configuration you have to give, but it's okay. Ignore for now. Okay. I'll tell you this separately. I can't say as the recording is going on. I'll tell this later. Okay. Next, I want wherever my Jenkins installed there, right, on my Linux machine. All right, on the Linux, wherever my Jenkins is installed, right? So on that Linux machine, we'll have username and password, right? Like root user, EC2 user, like that. So those users, wherever my Jenkins is there, I mean on the Linux machine, wherever my Jenkins is installed, that Linux machine will have username and passwords, right? Those users who are there on my Linux machine, they can log in with their username and password. If you want to use that also, you can use this. You can use this option. None. There is one more option called as none. Means I don't want any authentication on my Jenkins. Whoever has access, whoever knows this URL, they can log in into my Jenkins. So in such cases, you can select this option, but that is a worst approach. Don't do that. For now, let me use this Jenkins own database. Okay, you understood, right? Jenkins own database, LDAP, both are very much important. Remember this. LDAP, at the end of the session, I'll discuss a few more points about this. Okay, next. This is authentication, means who can log in into my Jenkins? Who can log in into my Jenkins? Like, for example, for them, for those users for whom I have created a username and password, those username and passwords are stored on my own Jenkins database. So I'll share that username and password with them, so they can log in into my Jenkins using their username and password. Or else LDAP, if I have configured Jenkins to my Office LDAP server, so all of my employees who are connected to my LDAP server, means my all Office colleagues, they can log in. Or else only Unix users, means wherever my Jenkins is installed on that Linux machine, we have username and password, right? With that, they want to log in. Or else no security, no login is required. This we can set up. This is related to login. But however, somehow they are logging in either using Jenkins own database or a LDAP user, Linux users, or no without username and password, somehow they logged in. Once they log in, what type of access they should get? Okay. Now it is showing us anyone can do anything. Anyone can do anything. So let me apply this change and show you. Anyone can do anything, right? So now this is a person. I'm just hitting this. I'm just hitting this. Now, did I enter? It is asking for login. It is asking for login. Means, did I logged in here? Did I logged in here? No. See, if I have not logged into my Jenkins, if I have not logged into this Jenkins, then who am I to my Jenkins? Unknown user. That is called as anonymous user. Unknown user. Someone just hitting this. For this user, do you have any username and password in my Jenkins? Is this authenticated user? No. This is called as anonymous user. Anonymous user. Still, I haven't logged in, but it is showing everything, including manage Jenkins. Everything it is showing. See, right? It is saying authorization. Anyone can do anything. Means whether you logged in or not, right? Anyone can do anything. Either you are an anonymous user or else a logged in user. Anonymous user means some unknown user. Just they know my URL. That's it. They don't have any. See, I have an institute. Just a second, guys. Just a second, guys. I'll come back. Okay, I'm back. Sorry, guys. Okay. Now, for example, just think we have an institute. We have an institute, right? If I go to that institute, I'm an admin. I can do anything because I'm a trainer. I can do anything. I'm an admin. Now, you came to that institute. I'm talking about the reception, the entrance gate of the institute. If I go there, no one will stop me because I'm the trainer there. I can go there. I can take some laptop or I can open some other room, something I can do. Once you come there, what that receptionist will allow you, but not to do everything. They'll just you. This is a DevOps and AWS classroom. You go and sit here. You are not allowed to go and sit in some other like Power BI classroom like that. Next, some other person comes. When I come, the receptionist identify. For example, I have an ID card. Right? She'll allow. You also have a student ID card. You will be allowed. But some other person is coming. Anonymous person. This is unknown person. That person is not a trainer. That person is not a student. Just coming for inquiry. That user just know the address, office address, institute address. That person came. Anonymous user. Right? So whether he can get inside the classroom or not. Right? So we don't know anything. Means that person is a new person for us, right? Okay. Now, as I selected the same example, let me explain it here. See, the settings I have selected, anyone can do anything. Means either you are a valid user, like admin user, or a restricted privileges user, or an anonymous user. Anyone can do anything. Means in that institute, anyone can come and anyone can go. You don't know. You can do anything. You can take a chair. You can take a project, take out. Right? Anonymous user, come take it and go out. Anyone can do anything. This is the option we can select. Okay, but which is not important. This is legacy mode. Or it is saying we need not no need this. Next, logged in users can do anything. Logged in users can do anything. What it is saying is, so let me apply the change.